Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back, and today I'm going to be teaching you guys how to air dribble. Since free to play, there have been a ton of new players coming into my stream trying to get better at the game. And for some reason, they think air dribbles are going to help them with that. And they're right. The air dribble is one of the first mechanics you learn that has multiple stages, all relying on each other in order to execute it effectively. The four parts are the approach, the setup, the first touch, and the dribble. The approach is getting the ball to roll up the wall smoothly and with a little bit of speed. You can either drive at the ball to do this, or you can flip at the top half of the ball to give it just a little bit of topspin, and the ball will stay grounded and roll nice and smoothly. But for now, just practice driving into the ball, as it's easier to gauge the speed this way. There isn't some magic height on the wall the ball needs to be for you to execute an air dribble, but getting the ball higher up the wall does give you more height to work with, which means you can use less boost trying to push the ball up once you've started your dribble. Make sure to get clean separation between the ball and you by the time it gets to the corner. That way you aren't continuing to change its speed once it's reached the wall. Next, we have the setup. In my opinion, this is the easiest part to mess up and the one you need to focus on the most if you're just learning the mechanic. So let's go over the ABCs of the setup. A, and this is the single most important part of the entire dribble mechanic in my opinion. Hit the ball on an angle that will lead it directly to the center of the net. If you forget every other step of this process, remember that. It will make just about everything else in the dribble go smoothly and require you to use less boost adjusting. Make it to where if you hit the ball just perfectly, it'll go in the net even without you touching it. If you find it's going off to either side of the net, that means it would have been difficult to execute an air dribble. Once you figured out the perfect angle, we move on to B. Make sure your point of contact with the ball is dead center between your headlights. The point of this is that you're going to take your car along for that ride on the perfect angle to your opponent's net. If you hit the ball correctly, your car will already be facing the perfect direction to literally follow the ball and get your first touch in the air. But first, let me show you a few ways you're probably going to mess this up. If you hit the ball with the lower edge of your car, you're likely going to fly too far above and in front of the ball to execute the dribble. If you hit the ball with the upper edge of your car, you're likely going to be too far in front of the ball and underneath it to execute the dribble. Next up, we have C. Find the perfect amount of power. Now, if you do the first two steps right, this one is pretty easy to do, but it does take some mentioning. Your car can't be going too much faster than the ball at the point of contact, otherwise your car will actually fly above the ball and make it almost impossible to execute a dribble. What's going to happen is you're only going to have access to the side of the ball, making it more of a push instead of a dribble. The problem with this is that you aren't really in control of the max speed of the ball when you're doing a push. Once the ball goes supersonic, you become predictable and therefore easier to defend against. I can't really tell you what's right or wrong here. Just feel it out for yourself and it will click eventually. If you're constantly going higher than the ball, you may not be getting enough speed from the approach, and so you're compensating by going faster than the ball at the point of contact. So fix your approach, then work on your setup again. Spend the most time practicing the setup. If your air dribbles are bad, this is most likely the reason as to why. Now that we have the approach and the setup mastered, it's time for us to focus on the first touch. But before we do that, help me hack the YouTube algorithm by dropping a like and subscribing. These things help YouTube recommend my video to other people. I have a ton of Rocket League tutorial videos, and I'm going to be uploading even more here soon. So if you're trying to get better at Rocket League, click the bell. Join the TRIHOUSE army. Now we move on to the first touch. If your approach was good and your setup was good, it will make this part of the process much easier on you, but still probably very difficult. After the point of contact, you have a narrow time frame before you need to jump off of the wall and air roll towards the ball. This time frame varies based on how much loft you have on the ball, but at most it's half a second. The reason being is that you want to make your first touch before the ball starts descending downwards. If the ball is allowed to gain downwards momentum, it is going to take an enormous amount of boost and control in order to counteract the effects of gravity, making it near impossible to execute correctly. At best, you can hope for a push instead of a dribble. Sometimes, if I know my setup is good, I will jump pretty much directly at the point of contact, and my first touch happens immediately. But this is pretty risky, because if it's not perfect, then I'm stuck in a poor position to dribble from. So what you're going to focus on is jumping a split second or two after the point of contact. This will give you the fraction of a second you need to assess where the ball is going and to jump correctly for it. A pro tip for this is to stop accelerating on the wall after the point of contact. If you keep driving forward, you can pretty easily drive yourself too far above or in front of the ball and make your jump more difficult. Now, when approaching the ball, you want to close the distance between you and the ball quick enough that the ball doesn't start descending, but not so quick that you accidentally yeet it out of your reach on the first touch. Aim for the lower part of the ball here. This is the sweet spot for dribbling. This bottom portion of the ball, right there. Being on the sweet spot is the difference between a dribble and a push. You gotta have finesse here. Catch it when it's in its state of weightlessness between rising and falling. And be gentle. Letting off the boost before you touch it is a given, because remember, you have finesse. Then after you touch the ball, let out a little more boost to close the gap you likely just made from your first touch. Experiment with ball cam and car cam after you jump off the wall. I always have ball cam on for the point of contact, but sometimes I find that after I jump, switching to car cam can give me a little bit more accuracy when going for my first touch. Now that you've done the other 3 parts correctly, you're actually at the easiest part, the dribble. If you're on the sweet spot of the ball, you now have all the power over your opponents. You can gently fall with the ball into net if you wish, or expend boost to steer the ball into the exact place you want to go in the net. You can even choose to leave the ball and remove your opponents by going for a demo. One rule to live by here is to try and prevent yourself from going supersonic, unless you're happy with where the ball is going. Because once you go supersonic, you lose control of the trajectory of the ball. Once you've got this mechanic down, you will find that it opens up the gateway to a lot of higher mechanical play. Most mechanics rely on precise setups and aerial finesse that you first learn by mastering the air dribble. If you guys want to learn any other mechanics, make sure you let me know down below in the comments. Leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you are new. I'm still a pretty small YouTube channel, so it would help me out a ton. Also, stop by my live stream. I stream 5 p.m. Pacific time every night over on Twitch. Details down below in the description, and I'll see you guys next time.